computer.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this podcast about PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. This is Cedric Sedekangon from Toronto. We have Charles Cho in Toronto as well, and Benjamin Klein in Calgary, Alberta. We are all in Canada, and we are all member of PSG Fan Club of Toronto. Even though technically Ben is not in the same city as us, and we're talking about a topic that we think is really relevant for the future of our club. Is the topic is while the world of football or soccer, but for the purpose of today's podcast, we will say only football, hate PSG. Why people don't like PSG on the pitch and outside the pitch. So today we will ask first to Charles. Charles, who is one of the founder of a PSG Fan Club of Toronto. Why do you think the world of football does not like PSG that much?
Yes, thank you. I think, first of all, we are the club of the capital of France. And like in many countries, there's always going to be a tension between the capital and the other cities, even though they are larger cities like Lyon, Marseille. We are the capital. We represent wealth and power. In France, we have a very centralized system history, going back to the historical perspective, but I think Benjamin can also elaborate on that a little bit later. But I think it's also the resources, the money, all the glamour, the jealousy of the other cities. And in terms of our club, as you know, we have received support, ownership from Qatar with almost unlimited resources. So it does create a lot of inequity in terms of how we can buy players, we can pay players, or superstars. Our budgets are for a couple players are 10, 20 times larger than some budgets of entire clubs. So I think it's not a surprise that as a club that is representing the capital and has unlimited resources, in France at least, and probably outside France too, we are pretty much hated. But I would say, to controversially, like when Leonardo came a few months ago and said Paris is not a real city of football, he created a panic and wow, anger among fans. But I tend to somewhat agree with him. You know, Marseille, Saint-Etienne, and Lens to me represent in proportion, the population, the demographics, a much more footballistic oriented club. Paris is still a very bourgeois place. It's rugby, it's horse racing, it's those kind of things. Football is still sort of,
it's more the fashion capital of the world.
Fashion.
Exactly. Whereas football is a little bit the popular sport. So in some sense, Leonardo was not completely wrong, and I think that's another reason that other clubs, the people from those cities I mentioned, those clubs, hate us even more, because now we are so much money without really a true culture of football. So
just to give you a context, Leonardo is a former PSG player, and is also the managing director of PSG. So Ben, from your perspective, why the PSG is so hated in the world of football, not only in France, but also by most, let's say, football countries like England, like Spain, like Italy, like Germany, maybe Portugal, and in Latin America, it's kind of 50-50, but PSG is more respected in new football territories like Asia and North America. What's your perspective? And the root of these states?
Yeah, and just to elaborate, I mean, Charles mentioned most of the reasons, but I think we can look at two perspectives, nationally and sort of like worldwide. And nationally, just to remind our listeners, is, you know, historically how France has been built, you know, by the King of France being in Paris, and people maybe don't remember, but the Kingdom of France was very small, and the King of France had to go to war against provincial lords, in order to, you know, build up the country. And so it's pretty much in French DNA, I would say, to have this centralized power in Paris and to fight the wars against provincial. And so that's one aspect. I would also add something very interesting. Again, social economic factor is, you know, in France, we were one of the first country to have the unpaid vacation.
Oh, okay.
in the 1936. And what happened then is that a lot of Parisians had the opportunity to go to vacation in the south of France. And so it also created this sort of a massive flow of populations to the province. And the people living there were not seeing that as a good thing, because we would pretty much invade their beaches, you know, their
Wow.
cities, and also the behavior of the Parisian, as you know, in the world, we're also known as sort of like posh people, and we think we are
Oh,
the center of the world. So that's one perspective,
okay.
I would say. And on the worldwide perspective, I think it's in Europe that we're headed more than anything else, because we're seen as a new player, a big new player, a new rich club, you know, funded by a country with, like Charles was saying, unlimited resources. So historical clubs like AC Milan, you know, Juventus, Barca, Real Madrid, they don't really like to see their power being
New
contested by,
competition.
yeah, new competitions, right? And we keep in mind that we were able to buy Neymar. We were able to buy buy him out of his contract
Mm,
for 220 millions, right? So that
yeah,
created a sort of a chaos
yeah,
in the sphere
jealousy.
of football.
Mhm. And also, we need to add that PSG is relatively a young club. It was founded only in 1970, so just 50 years old, turning 51 too. And even though we have a lot of trophies, but on the world of football, we have a small experience. You know, we only had like one final in the Champions League. We have one European trophy in 1996, but most of people tend to forget what was that trophy. And also, people have more respect for an historical club like Marseille because they were the first, and we have to, acknowledge they were the first to win the Champions League in France and still the only one, even though there was that rivalry built by Canal Plus, which is a French network. But still, PSG is the most powerful club in France now and tend to be a great, powerful actor in the world of football. But now, people in this year, 2021, post-COVID, people tend to be happier than ever, realizing PSG failed to go again to the final and failed to win the French championship. Why do you think this was even more than usual? While so much hate crystallized on one club, we're not the only one to be rich in Europe. You have Manchester City, you have Real, you have Barca, you have Bayern Munich. But why is it so much about PSG? Is it the player or is it the Qatar? Keep in mind, people don't like Qatar because it's in Middle East, right? And all of the reason behind it. Okay, so why is it only PSG and not why people don't hate Manchester City? We are the same. What do you think? Ben first.
I think Manchester City has hated as PSG. That to be
Oh,
honest. Oh yeah,
okay.
I think so. Like I've seen some other comments, and most of the time when I talk to my friends here in Calgary, who are like from Italy or even England,
Mm.
Manchester City is sort of like a PSG in England, right? Funded
Oh, okay.
by a country with unlimited resources. So I think we're in the same boat, and we're the brand new two clubs, right? With that kind of like economic power behind us and the players. You are saying like, why is it so much about PSG? I think in the latest Champions Leagues, we've sort of given ourselves the credit to shoot ourselves in the foot, right? With
Yes.
like shameful results against Barcelona in 2017, Manchester United in
You're
2019.
talking
Like
about the
shameful results.
remontada.
Exactly, the remontada.
Yeah,
That we invented. This game pretty much invented
the remontada.
this
Yeah.
concept.
Mm.
So that's one thing. Also, players. It's kind of bizarre because we have Mbappe, which is a well-known, well-respected player, doing interviews in the US, well-respected. But we also have Neymar, and Neymar. It's pretty interesting because if you look at the population, like under I would say 20, everybody loves Neymar. They think he's the greatest player. But in the meantime, they would follow the next team he would join, right? So they're not really attached to PSG. They are attached to Neymar. And if you look at, I'm sure if we do a study, if you're above 25 years old, I'm sure you start recognizing the fact that Neymar he's not the greatest. I mean, he's a very skillful player, but do you like him? Maybe not. Like his behavior on the pitch, 2018, the way he behaved on the World Cup. I mean, just to give some perspective to our players, like in Mexico, and I have some Mexican friends, they told me that during halftime game, there was a contest with two people from the stadium. They would start lying on the ground from the midfield of the pitch, and the winner of the guy who would be able to roll all the way up to the goal first would win some money.
Ridiculous.
And they were rolling out, on the ground, like similarly to what he was doing on the pitch. Do you understand? Like
wow, yeah, that's tough.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Charles, your perspective.
Yeah, I think for Manchester, yeah, I agree. Manchester, the PSG of England, or PSG, Manchester of France, whatever. If you look at the European cities, capitals, every capital has more than one club. Paris is the only one who has only one. London has several. Madrid has two. Rome even has two, even though they are not the top team in Italy, but Rome and of course Madrid and what did I say, London. I think that's one of the reasons that the focus is so much on PSG. In Madrid, I give the example of Real and Atletico. They have totally different cultures. Yes. One is like the King's Club, and the other is a popular club. But PSG, there's only one. So of course, it's much more scrutinized, it's much more observed, and in some sense, it's much more hated. The title loss joy of France, to be honest, is totally justified. With none of the titles under QSI mean really much. It's like you must win the title. Yes. The year you don't win, it's the exception. So it's 2 times we didn't win. So to me, it's very normal that people are happy. Of course, I wasn't happy, but I was like, yeah, well, that's the result of a lot of problems that we have. So in that aspect, I am not surprised. I'm not necessarily happy that we're hated, but on the other hand, I don't really care as a fan. That's part of Paris and what it is. Yes. Actually, I always joke. I said, we are the most hated club in France, and maybe I can say, I love it. I don't care, because that's part of us. It gives us motivation to be even stronger fans. On the other hand, yes, there are things we can do, but I'd rather be hated and be more performing on the pitch. The image for me as a fan doesn't really bother me, because I will, I breathe and live and die PSG, so I don't care. Or even if we finish last, finish League 2, it doesn't matter. The image so much to me. And from the worldwide perspective, yeah, I think I tend to agree. Although I have maybe nicer friends than Ben, that actually more jealousy than hatred. But yeah, I think Manchester City, having Manchester United to counterbalance, England being a country culturally different than France in football, maybe makes it a little bit different, maybe a little bit less focused on that. And I think having coach like Guardiola and other players, and they play maybe a little bit more as a team, not like huge superstar that stand out like PSG, not so much bling bling marketing. Maybe we're going to talk about that later. As much as, so maybe less so for Manchester City and Paris, but that's just my view. So thanks.
Yeah. In terms of the current image, as we know, and I'll just remind you, we lost. We didn't reach the final again like last year, and we lost the French title, but we still won the French Cup, which is okay. It's an honorable trophy, but people tend to be happy about it, and they always want PSG to fail. The nail in the coffin was the new jersey. We got those, well, for us, we don't like the jersey. It's like purple or like, I don't really know what kind of color it is. And we put so much into marketing. Like, for example, there are only 2 games, I believe, that are sold by the Ligue 1, so Ligue 1, French Championship, to Asia. And those games are PSG, right? So there is so much focus on PSG. PSG, it's as well the main engine for French football, but also the most hated. And I think we need to find a balance about it. Anyhow, Going to the second part of this podcast, and again, this is Cedric, this is Charles, and this is Ben from PSG Fan Club of Toronto, talking about the topic of why PSG is so headed by the world of football, and what can we find, what ways can we find to improve this image and reputation of PSG. We're going back to Charles, to Ben in Calgary. The marketing, the image of PSG in Western Canada, where you live. What can you say about it? And what do you think, as a marketing guru, if you are, what can you say about improving this image?
Yeah. Well, I think, like we're doing great marketing wise with this sponsorship with Jordan. So we're selling a lot of jerseys. We're penetrating some new markets like Asia. In Canada, as we know, football is growing. We're going to welcome the World Cup in 2026. So I think it's going to do a major things for Canada. But Canada is a very junior country in terms of football. So people are just starting to follow that. So in terms of marketing, like PSG is doing really well. I think it's one good aspect of the club. Now, is it sustainable? I don't think so. And when you were asking like what can we do to improve, our image, I would tend to say we need a style. We need a on the pitch. We need to show a style of football. Like I don't know. I'm sure everybody remembers Ajax. Everybody remember,
Yes.
Barcelona.
Mhm.
Like even Liverpool at some point you would say like they sort of were innovative in this counter attack type of style, direct style. So PSG needs to find its identity instead of just piling up stars that are like not having the right behavior on the pitch as we've seen in the last competition.
That's a very interesting point. We don't have a real identity. If I remember well, the last coach that we can say was building a kind of, even though Pochettino did some good things this year, but the last team that had like possession of the ball and was scoring a lot and had a strong defense was Laurent Blanc team. After that, Unai Emery, all of these guys, I'm not really sure about it. Charles, what can we do to improve PSG image?
Well, it's ironic because they are trying so hard to put all the resources for this bling bling marketing, like I call all these social media, all these jersey, as you mentioned, the Jordan partnership with basketball. This is all about gaining markets and gaining reputation. But to me, if you want to be more respected in the football world, you need to actually put less on this and more, as Ben said, on the sports, on the game itself. So yes, identity of game, style of game, for sure, because in the last few years, couple of years, as you mentioned, I don't really know what is our game. There's a lineup for different lineup for every game. I have no idea how they're gonna play, who's gonna play what. They change position between defense or midfield. I mean, this is a disaster. It's actually a miracle we're able to do quite well, second of League One and semi-final of Champions League with this kind of strategy. I think it's due parts to the star. But I would say also to try to maybe go more local, build a team rather than just buying stars. We have a fantastic training center, probably one of the best in Europe, and we lose regularly our players to European clubs for some reasons. But I think we should make much more efforts to try to keep a few really high potential ones. And I think even if we do really make them play more, to be integrated in the pro, not play like 5-6 minutes at the end of the game when we lead 3-0. I mean, this is not really playing. So trust them more and build a more cohesive kind of plan rather than going for the superstars. But it's really contradictory, right? Because you buy the superstars so that you can be highly marketable, visible in Asian markets, as you mentioned. I always joke, great, we have extended Neymar, we're gonna sell more jersey in Malaysia. Okay, wonderful. What does he do football? Nothing, right? I mean, in the pitch, he does nothing, right? So that's sort of like less on the outside image marketing stuff, concentrate on really building a culture of sports and identity of a game, as Ben mentions.
Talking specifically about marketing, and that might be a controversial question. Do you think the partnership with Jordan Brand is, in terms of marketing itself, money-wise, it's beneficial But do you think it's increased that disrespect to our club? Because you saw, for example, ad of PSG player shooting on the basketball net, right? And having the first club ever to wear a basketball jersey, basically, to play football. Do you think that's negative or just part of the plan? And this plan should not, doesn't reflect what we should do for our club? Starting by Charles again.
I'm totally against, I mean, mixing those two sports. I think it's very strategic. I think I mean, Ben is a marketing specialist, so he can maybe speak better, but I think it's completely strategic oriented for the North American market, because North American market speaks basketball language. So if you combine the two and you have the Jordan thing, North American is a high potential for PSG, even more than Asia. And I think they did that. But for football, it doesn't mean anything to me whatsoever. I mean, to me, it's ridiculous, right? But from a marketing perspective, I think it's quite smart, even though I'm against it. So yeah, I mean, they have thought about it. I just think that, okay, making us known, it's not like we're buying Canadian and American players either. It's not like, okay, we used to come to those summer tours when before COVID here.
Yeah,
okay. But again, at the end of the day, in terms of our objective, which is to be a good football club, we're trying to win titles, and notably the European Champions League. I'm not sure what does it bring, to be in Harvard Business Review, to be the most highly valued club, the most visible club. Oh, we have the most social media active, whatever.
Exactly.
What does it do to football?
Which is true.
yeah, but so what, right? So anyway, I'll stop here. But
okay.
Ben can add his marketing spin to it. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, like, we need to be aware, not to remember. No, we need to be aware of the new business, the world we're living in, right? So there's competition through the pitch, sports competition, but keep in mind that the clubs now are competing on another level, the market, the fan base. How do you extend your fan base? And those partnerships, Charles, you're right. They're really smart. Who's got Jordan as a partner? No one else. Us, right? What does it do to PSG in terms of on the pitch? Nothing. So this is, like, I think where we are right now, the three of us, right? We're like grown-up adults that have lived in a different world, and the clubs are, unfortunately for us, like romantical supporters of PSG and fans, what we're seeing is a new football, is a new market, and they're, how do they market themselves to those young populations? It's through like big names, right? The Jordan, for example. Jordan is known everywhere, right? He's a brand himself. Mbappe, Neymar, they're a brand themselves as well. So that's the reason why we have those players. So it's for us, it's difficult. We've come from the past, and there's a new football coming up in front of us, and we're finding it difficult to adjust and how to embrace that new football, I guess.
Okay, I will just quickly add, very quickly, that sometimes it can be almost detrimental to the player's attitude, because they focus so much on their image so that they forget to play as a team in football. We have seen the style of our stars, that it's about them, the statistics, because they want to be, it becomes the individualized football much more with those kind of marketing gimmicks that you put them around. So that's actually negative for the pitch.
Okay. And we noticed, we remember a few years ago when there was a crisis at PSG. Remember, there was some fascist group in the PSG in the early 2000s. There was the Plan Le Prou, which was who was one of the manager of the PSG, executive of PSG, who decided to clean up somewhat the group of fans in PSG. He was helpful because he helped to those far right group from the club, but in the same time we had some guests like Rihanna coming to her PSG, like Michael Jordan, which is okay, it's Michael Jordan, right? But what does he know about football, right? And we still have those people like from Hollywood, from the world of entertainment, that we kind of buy to carry our reputation. So do you think we should do more take more focus on what they do, for example, at some club like Bayern Munich, like Liverpool, like Manchester United, more support from former glorious player, like bring back Rai, bring back Ginola, bring back Paoletta, players like this. Why we don't do that? Why we spend so much on outsourcing our marketing instead of using what we have? Like in 1 minute for each of you, if you can, starting by Ben.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, I guess, but it would help. I think bringing back those previous players would help hiring new players and explaining to them the context of Paris Saint-Germain and the culture of the club and what it means to sign up for PSG. On the other hand, keep in mind that we're a League One is not competitive enough, right? So to attract players, superstar players, you need to show them money because they know they're not going to be seen as much as if they were to play in England or in Spain or in somehow Italy and Germany. So this is the problem of Paris, where we have to overpay our players to bring them here. And that creates a vicious circle where the players are like, okay, well, I'm going to be in Paris, enjoying the lifestyle, getting a lot of money, but do I have to really put the best of myself every weekend? Probably not.
Yeah, and people like calling the League One the farm league. Charles, what's your idea? Bringing more player or keep investing on marketing policy and stuff?
Well, I will start. I like the fact that you brought very quickly the Le Prou plan at that time, cleaning up the fan base, cleaning up in both senses. I call it. I'll send you a paper I wrote about this whole notion of changing the demographics of the fan through these incidents. But no, I think it was a Liverpool or Bayern, like when players enter the pitch, there is something on the wall, on the top of the wall.
Yeah,
remind them what the club is about.
Yeah.
We have never
the
those
crest.
kind of like strong, strong cultural shift. That okay, they are mercenaries. Okay, we're gonna pay you, but you need to learn about the club's history, the values that it had. Even though we have a short history, there's a lot of things that have happened, very good things, and have some kind of ambassador, somebody in power in the management team. You mentioned the players, the perfect one, Rai, Paoletta, Ginola, even Guérin. I mean, they don't have to be like superstars.
Or why not Ronaldinho?
Those who were like very attached to the jersey. You got to think about Paoletta. This guy has not really won. He was at the worst time of PSG.
Absolutely.
He still remained a hero. Yeah. Why? Because his attitude, right? This kind of aura. So we need an emblematic figure to come and say, this is the guy. As a coach, Pochettino, he's a former player, but maybe he doesn't have that kind of aura at the time. I don't know. But somebody in the management team say, this is important for us. So yes, I'm all for bringing the old players who are mark our history. Yeah.
And this we are at the end of this podcast, but in 30 seconds, gentlemen, and thanks for people who will be watching this on YouTube or listening on SoundCloud or any other platform. Remind you, this is Cedric, Charles, and Ben talking about why people hate PSG so much and what we can do to improve it. In 30 seconds, what's your perspective after World Cup in Qatar? Do you think Qatar will keep supporting and financing PSG, or they will switch to something else? And what's about PSG reputation? Starting by Charles in 30 seconds.
Well, I think Qatar is here to stay. I think the World Cup is a landmark. I think it'll be interesting the next couple of years what will happen. They have extended Neymar. Likely Mbappe will stay. So they have a plan, at least in the midterm. I'm hoping that we can bring a change of leadership. But I do think Qatar will be there for the right or wrong reasons. I don't know. But my wish is to have a stronger model leadership of the coach versus the managing director, to have one person instead of two.
And then to conclude on this, on
100% agree with Charles. But also keep in mind the future of football to, and I don't like it, but the way I see the future of football is similar to the American model.
So Super League,
franchise model, which obviously is gonna have a huge impact for the clubs in terms of financial guaranteed revenue. and Qatar is not going to miss that, right? So I think they're here to stay. And am I going to like this new football? Probably not, but I'll still be a supporter of PSG. So
Thank you so much, guys, for being there. And so we have to finish. Can we say together at the same time, Allez PSG?
of course.
So 1, 2, 3.
Allez,
PSG.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks again.
Ciao, guys.